the charges themselves, what does that change?
Well, it certainly suggests that the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, former congressman, of course, and all of the legal officials there in Minnesota have been toiling with this case, trying to find the most appropriate and yet also the most serious charges that they believe will be able to be upheld by a jury. And it seems as though they have done that in this case. It's very rare that you see in this country, first of all, any charges at all against police officers. And the fact that we've seen them in this case, we've seen them at the speed at which we've seen them, and we've seen the charges for the main perpetrator, ex-police officer, to have been upgraded from 3rd degree to 2nd degree. All of that seems to suggest, along with now the charges actually brought upon the other 3 officers, seems to suggest that this time the justice system in Minnesota that has failed so many before, failed Jamar Clark, failed Philando Castile, failed so many others, that maybe this time it just might work for George Floyd.
All of the momentum of this movement come November, what effect do you think it will have?
Because we expect weather to change, of course, because of while we're entering summer now, I do think it may be a warm, hot summer like it was in '64 or in '63 or in '68 with a lot of protests. But what will happen post-Labor Day, what will happen as we get closer to the general election in November is something that I think we have to wait and see. Protest certainly has created the energy necessary to I think, buoy the Democratic candidacy of Joe Biden and whomever he will pick as the vice president that he wants to run alongside him. But yet, because Republicans are still in control of most of the state legislatures and most of the governor's mansions here throughout our 50 states, what we find is that they are working very diligently to on the legal side to try ensure that voters do not have the right to, let's say, mail-in ballots, for example, because Republicans know when more young people vote, when more people of color vote, when more women vote, they tend to lose. And so a mail-order voting as opposed to voting in person increases the chances of more people participating and therefore decreases the chances of Republicans winning. And so the challenge will be keeping the protests up through the summer, keeping them nonviolently, but then beginning to find other ways in which that protest manifests itself when people hopefully begin to go back to work and folks do not have as much time available throughout the day and afternoon to go and protest. Hopefully we will see these protests morph into other forms of political engagement, going to civic meetings, rallying with the people you want to see replace the current folks in office now, helping people to register to vote. Those are the kinds of things that we can hopefully see as versions of protests that will manifest themselves in different ways between now and November.